And good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you once again for joining another Home in Italy Thursday night live stream. So good to be back. See a number of you coming in to watch, which is absolutely fantastic. Always good to see that I'm not just talking to myself, which I tend to do quite often recently, but there you go. That's a completely other story. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's David Benton, and for the last over 15 years now, myself and my wife, Silvana, have been helping people buy, restore, and locate over to beautiful Italy. And if it's the first time you've joined us on these live streams, then you should know that if you join us every week, we talk about the legal buying process. We talk like we do tonight with people that's already done it, and lots of other subjects to keep you interested every single Thursday night. And if you miss it, then you will see it left on YouTube and on Facebook for probably a month or two afterwards as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for all your support as well on YouTube. Our video channel is going absolutely incredibly well at the moment, and we're going to be doing lots of live streams from different towns around Italy and around Abruzzo, especially where we're based. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. So again, thank you so much. Tonight we're talking to some, what can we say? To a couple that's done this now 4 times with us. Well, 3 times. This is the 4th time. So some may say that they've been around the block. But no, I'm only joking. A great couple, Lexi and Craig, that bought a property over a year ago. They're going to give you their story right from the start when they came out viewing properties with me, right up to what's happening now. Now they've been in Italy for over a year. Okay, so just to let you know, next Thursday, we are doing the My Abruzzo session, which basically is talking about this region where I live. Obviously, I've got a huge passion for this one. I'm going to be telling you all about basically the different areas of Abruzzo, showing you some photographs, some of the places where I think you should be looking for properties, and just giving you a bit of a rundown on how the property market works out here and why there's such huge differences between prices from one region to another. So that's next week. Then we've got, obviously we're into March then, which I can't believe. That's into March, and I'm going to be doing the program for March over the next couple of days. But we are going to be getting serious in March. We're going to start off, we have to be serious in March, don't we? It's part of Lent, so we have to, a little bit of suffering. So we're going to be talking, the first session we're going to be talking about the contracts that you potentially sign if you come out here to buy a property. It doesn't matter where you buy, whether it's in Abruzzo, Tuscany, Sicily, wherever it is, these contracts apply to everybody. So that's going to be a good one. I'm going to be talking about one particular contract that some of you may have never heard of, and then contracts when it comes to paying a deposit, what you should look out for on those contracts, what's inside those contracts, and more importantly, what they mean to you. So that's going to be the first one in March. Then we're still trying to pick a few topics, but we're definitely going to be doing a restoration one during March, where we're going to talk about the famous €1 properties. I'll be giving you my opinion on the €1 one versus the 100,000 ones, or versus the 20k ones, and giving you my opinions on the kind of thing you should look out for, and giving you a few examples of prices and that kind of thing for restoring properties here, so you can make a good decision whether you're going to go all out and go for that €1 property, or whether you're going to get something that's a little bit further on. And then also in March, we're going to see Mr. Doom and Gloom himself, our resident accountant, Gianluigi. So he's going to be joining us in March to give us all the bad stuff, all the taxes that we have to pay, or that you have to pay while you're in Italy. Having said all that, there's some great news for people that maybe want to come on pension here. But he's going to be telling you all about the 7% tax that you can pay for 10 years on all your worldwide income. He's going to be telling you about that. He's going to be telling you about if you have a property here, maybe you're renting it out, maybe you live here already and you want to buy a second property. So he's going to be coming in probably late March, still to be decided. We have to get ready for that. We have to prepare ourselves for that one. But he's definitely going to be joining us in March. And then we will have another one of these Meet the Home Buyers. There's a few people that I've got in mind, and yeah, so that we're going to have a little bit of fun with that as well. The last bit of notice before I bring Lexi and Craig in, who's going to tell us their story, I just want to tell you about the tour that we're going to be doing. A lot of people have sent me emails about this, saying that you've mentioned tours, but we've seen nothing about it on your website, which is true. As probably most of you know, I do try and get around to do as much on the website as I can, but I am behind, I must admit. We're a husband and wife team, and thankfully we're busy, very busy. So some of the things I don't quite do straight away. I do try. But I am going to be sending PDFs out to everybody this weekend on Saturday. I'm going to send PDFs about this trip. It's on the 4th and 5th of May. Basically what it is, we all meet here in Abruzzo. We meet in Pescara, and it's run on the 4th and 5th, but we actually see you on the 3rd. We collect people coming from the UK on the Ryanair flight into Pescara, and take you into Pescara airport, and then we take you into the centre of Pescara, where we'll be recommending a hotel right next to the railway station. So anybody coming from the US or anywhere else in the world, obviously you can fly into Rome and get the bus or the train over, and we'll meet you in Pescara for an aperitivo on the Wednesday night. So we have a little drink together and a little bit of something to eat together, and I will explain about what's going to happen over the following days. And then on the 4th and the 5th, we collect you in a coach, take you around to a number of towns and villages, to introduce you to the area. We also see lots of properties. We get to meet people like a geometer. We're going to see properties that we're restoring at the moment. Hopefully this time we're going to see the notary as well, just so you can get to meet a notary and see what one looks like. And then we're going to be this time we're definitely going to be doing some wine tasting. That always sort of happens. So there'll be some of that, lots of food, lots of fun. And yeah, they're usually great, these things, because you get to know plenty of people who've got the same idea of you as you. So the price for this per person is $295. That doesn't include accommodation, unfortunately. With the cost of car hire as it is at the moment, or should I say coach hire, unfortunately we can't include your accommodation at that, but we get you some really good prices for that. But it's $295 each, and that's collected for 2 days, tours and things like that, going to restoration projects, meeting geometers, do lots of things. All your food's included while you're with us, so during the daytime. It also includes the aperitivo on the Wednesday night, and then taking people to the airport if needs be in Pescara. So if you are interested in that, look out for the PDF coming on Saturday. I know some of you have emailed me, and I have put your names to one side, and you guys will be first choice, because obviously we have a limited amount of tickets available, and we have, I must say, we've probably sold just over half of them as it is now, but I will get that out to you on Saturday. If you can't do the one in May time, we are going to definitely do another one in October time. So it's something that we're going to try and do 3 times a year. This year we're only managing twice, but yeah, it's going to be something we will do more and more often. Okay, guys, so that's all the boring stuff out of the way. Now we are going to bring in Lexi and Craig, who's going to give their story. This is Meet the Home Buyers 1 year on. So let's get them in and see. Let's start the story. Just 1 second. Here we go. Good evening.
Good evening.
You know, the screen, Lexi, the screen just locked perfectly then. You were in full grin mode. That was surreal. I hope it wasn't just my screen that locked, because that was the perfect entrance. Anyway, yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Ciao.
What is that?
How's things? You okay? Yeah? You enjoying life at the moment?
See, we are.
This is disgusting. You guys are drinking. Tony, who's in the background, as you know, is drinking, because I can see a little video of him in my corner holding his glass up, and I'm here with my glass of water. But there you go. I'll make up for it later. Okay, Lexi and Craig. So some of you will have already met you, because you are veterans on this, and you've been doing this. This is your 4th time. So absolutely brilliant to see you both again, even though we do see each other sort of socially every now and then, don't we? And have a few too many glasses occasionally, but that's just part of life, isn't it? So for you guys, so for people that don't know you, I want to go through a little bit about your story, because this goes back to, you've just told me and I forgot already, June 2021. But Lexi, before then, because you were the one keeping in touch most, why Abruzzo at that time? Why did you choose Italy, and why Abruzzo?
Yeah. So neither of us are Italian, so we were not able to do the familial path to get here. But I grew up in Northeast Ohio, surrounded by Italians. And the more I researched it, I grew up eating Di Cecco pasta and having the pizza dolce cake and all of the pizzelles, all the Abruzzese cuisine and treats. But in my mind, it was just Italian. And then I looked it up and realized that it was Abruzzo. And then we watched some of your webinars during COVID, and then started around like, it can't be this pretty. It can't look like that. And surprise, it looks better than it does in pictures, which is mind-boggling.
I always remember getting your emails, and they always seem to be sort of full of excitement. How can somebody write something and sort of it was like, sometimes it was like reading a child's Christmas list.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Strangely enough, you're a little bit like that as well in real life, aren't you? So you just so obviously so you joined yes, and I must say, Craig, as well, you've after a year and a half, you've not saying that you were miserable before, and I'm not saying that at all. You've completely. I know we're going to talk about this anyway, but it's brilliant to see people's lives change, and I really do think that you guys are a big thing of this, both of you. Anyway, okay, so going back to, obviously you did the webinars, you watched all of that, you contacted me, you said you wanted to come out. And I always remember an email that you sent to me, Lex. I can't remember if it was an email or a text message where you said, when we get there to Italy, when we land in Rome, when we come out of Rome, what are the roads like? What are we expected to see? And I was wondering what you were thinking in your mind at that time. And then somehow, I can't remember how, that this photograph came up. And this is honestly what you expected, isn't it, of this place?
Well, yeah, no, I think I must have Googled like Abruzzo roads, and the internet played a dirty trick on me, I guess.
Because it was. The thing that you said, I know you're going to come out and to off the motorway, and are we going to be going over mountains? Are we going to do all this? So we had a bit of a laugh with the sheep thing, and then while you were here, I think you actually went out of your way to find a road and send me this photograph. Send me probably the only road in Abruzzo you managed to find with sheep running around on it.
Well, I think the sheep found us.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Superb. So that was your thought of Abruzzo. I mean, Craig, what was your? I mean, obviously Lexi was sending quite a lot of emails, and we were talking. I mean, where were you at that stage? Were you ready to come out, or were things different for you?
Now looking back, I can probably be a little more honest about it. I was somewhat apprehensive. I mean, it seemed exciting. It seemed like it was going to be amazing, just the pictures that we saw of the place, and starting to envision a new life going forward. But that's a little bit scary doing that. And one of the things we wanted to do was simply get out here as soon as possible. We had to fly on a COVID-free flight. I think at that point you didn't have many Americans flying over during that time frame, so we were probably among the first as COVID started to subside. I really wanted to see the place, and to Lexi's point, pictures really don't do it justice. I mean, it's truly amazing, and that's when I really started to fall in love with just the landscape, the idea, the concept of moving here. And the funniest thing is when we occasionally travel, hit other destinations in Europe and whatnot, and even going back to the U.S., I always think, I'm ready to go home, and this is home.
Yeah, no, that's great because you lived in Oklahoma, didn't you, both of you, when you were in the US? That's correct. Yeah. So before you came out, then, Craig, obviously you went into retirement. Lexi was dying to get over here to Italy, and all the rest of it. So obviously there must have been some enthusiasm there. But when you actually arrived, I remember Lexi saying that you had a bit of a hard time, I think, on the tolls on the motorway. What happened?
Well, it was kind of interesting. I mean, first of all, 20 hours of travel, I was a little bit exhausted, jet lag and whatnot. We transported 2 cats over here, and that's not a lot of fun on even a good day. And so I get on the toll, and I hadn't quite figured out the ticket process on, to be fair, I think the ticket kind of laminated itself at the toll booth. So I couldn't get the ticket out. I couldn't get the gate to rise up. And meanwhile, I had all sorts of drivers behind me stopping, and some of them rolling down the windows. One even got out of the car. And it would have been a great Italian lesson in all the expletives that I might be able to use from time to time. So that was kind of frustrating. It's just like, okay, I'm tired. We need to get to the bed and breakfast that we're going to. And so it wasn't a great start. I was tired and cranky.
And I must admit, when you sent me details of where you were, Lexi, where you were staying, I mean, you certainly picked one a little bit far out from things for your first night. The first time that you'd been here, first time either of you had been here, you certainly picked somewhere in the middle of nowhere, didn't you? You didn't sort of you didn't do it by halves, as we say in England. And this was the first picture that you sent me. Obviously, I didn't know Craig at all. We'd spoken on the telephone, I think, by then, and I remember coming to pick you up. This is close to the Gran Sasso, isn't it, where you were staying? I think you're laid on a hammock here, if I remember rightly. Yeah. And when I came to pick you up, I remember pulling to the end of the drive after a long drive to get to you, because you were in the north of Abruzzo, and we looked for properties together, didn't we? And I remember pulling up at the end of the drive to say, I'm here. And you sent me a text message saying, you're going to have to help you with Craig, because I'm there. I want to buy here. You'd been here like half a day. Yes. You may need to help. May need to help me a little bit. And I didn't know what to expect. I must admit, I thought, who is this Craig? Why is Lexi sending me these messages? And the first time I met Craig was actually walking over a corridor in just his underpants, if I remember right.
True story. And that is not like Craig at all.
Well, unfortunately, the bathroom was on the other side of the bedroom, and I really did need to hit that. So yeah. But hey, you both are good sports about it. And
I always remember you sort of passed by and looked at me and just went, "Hey, Dave." And I thought, he doesn't seem that stressed out to me. So obviously we're not going to go too much into the properties that we saw. Obviously I'm going to show them your property that you chose. But things did seem to change as soon as we started viewing properties. I mean, the first one, if you remember, was this property, just outside of Teramo. Craig, what was it? I know you both really like this property, but did you suddenly start thinking I could probably live here?
Oh, absolutely. I needed to get out and look at properties, and this one, quite frankly, I thought was outstanding. Just the views, the proximity to Teramo, the granite floors completely caught me off guard. I mean, it was a beautiful place, and I could just envision hanging out on the balconies, and had balconies, I think, that maybe even went all the way around. So my attitude really started to change to that point, because I was able to then visualize what it would be like living here.
Yeah, because it did change quite quickly, didn't it? I know we're painting you out to be, obviously it wasn't hard work. You were both fantastic, but I think sometimes the reality where people think we're actually doing this, and stress people out. And then, as you say, 20 hours trip, and you're bringing 2 cats and everything else suddenly something changed, and you became really enthusiastic then, didn't you, about getting a property here? So the original spec that I know we had a bit of fun on this, considering in the end I think me and Craig definitely won on the properties that we chose, the best properties. But your original spec, Lexi, was something old, in stone, oldie worldy as it can be, and as much stone as you could possibly look at. We will show people what you ended up with, which couldn't be any more opposite to that. But one of the properties we saw during that day, which was this one, which did have that kind of style, didn't it? That you were looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can remember the property, and obviously inside it had some of the beautiful vaulted ceilings. It had everything that people think, oh, that's it, that's the Italian dream and all the rest of it. The great thing with you guys is you were both, as I keep asking people to be, you were both really open-minded. Would you say that helped, or were you not really keen on looking at anything else, or as in, did you really want to stick to that, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there were ones that I found online that you thought, I don't know that that's really going to work, but we'll throw that in. And then that reaffirmed, that's not a good fit for us, but thank you for showing it to us. Yeah. But I mean, we stayed kind of in the same price range, but some had pools, some had land to build pools. We didn't want to do a ton of renovations, but you showed us quite a large array, which then helped us. And you can only tell so much on pictures, and really comparing the types of pictures that Italians put online typically compared to what you're used to in the US real estate experience is vastly different. So there's not a whole lot of staging and all of the things that we were used to. So you just kind of have to throw all that out the window and trust the process and see it all, and then something's going to percolate up and speak to you.
And that was great that you did, because I mean, I was getting worried that we were running out of stone properties and everything else. And then obviously the one that you did choose was thrown. Was it the last day? It was or the second day. I can't really remember when.
Yeah, second to last day, I think.
Yeah. The third day, and then we came out and looked at it again.
Yeah. So the one that you actually went for is, I mean, obviously this is just from one angle. So the stone. The stone sort of stone villa and stone rustic thing. So what was it when you went in this place that you just thought, this is it?
Well, I think first of all, and looking at the older properties and everything, I was primed and ready to jump on one of the older properties, but I saw this one. I thought, this is just, this is modern Italian architecture, and it kind of, made me rethink, what kind of a property we were looking at. And so it had the modern amenities. Honestly, the view is just absolutely spectacular. Now, having said that, I don't know that I've been to a place in Abruzzo that had a bad view. I think most of these places have pretty outstanding views, but this one I thought was just kind of a cut above, as far as the Yellow Mountains behind us, and the Adriatic Sea kind of off in the distance, and the vineyards and whatnot. So it was kind of just a little bit of everything too. And it's kind of the point of going out, looking at a property and looking at it in the context of the community you're in, or if you're out in the country, what does it look like? And I really, when I saw this place, I thought, yeah, this is it. I can envision myself doing this completely. So I was certainly willing to go look at more properties, but at that point I was working very hard on lobbying Lexi to
I remember, I think the last day we said, and it was right to do, you'd come all that way, let's go and see the other stuff,
Sure.
There was one of Lexi's, if I remember right, that took us about 8 hours to get to, and was probably one of the worst properties in. Sorry, did you want to say something?
It did not take 8 hours, but probably 2.
7.5. So I mean, this property, the property that you went for, obviously these pictures now, these are older properties. This is when it was when it was first built, but it looks like sort of a set of pods almost from the back. Things are a little bit different now. It's much more established, isn't it? That kind of thing. And some of the work you guys have done inside, it's like you're sort of living. You're living outside almost, aren't you?
Yeah.
Especially from this room.
Yeah, that's the room that we're in right now. Obviously, it's 7:30 at night here, so it's not as bright. But This room gets great sun, and even in the winter when it's cold, the sun comes in and heats you up, and fabulous in the summer as well.
So the kitchen,
yeah,
thing,
really modern
yeah.
kitchen.
So it's obviously got the kitchen, the living room. I'm not going to show people sort of all around your house, but it gives people an idea of what it is like. But it is, joking aside, it is completely different. But as you say, the views are stunning, aren't they? It's just it's. What can you say? Is it Italian? I don't know if it is Italian or if it's just making the most of what is outside your house. The rest of us are looking through small windows, and you guys have got these huge windows everywhere.
We figured we could go to as many old stone churches and stone historic buildings in every village and town across Italy, but have all the modernness, because the house was built in the
2009.
Yeah. So it's a baby compared to most houses in Italy.
And the view, obviously, from the front we saw a little bit earlier, and then this is from the back, the mountain. I mean, here again, to explain to people, because sometimes people will contact me and say, I don't want to be right up in the mountains, that scares me. I mean, if you can explain, because I try every day to say to people, look at these places, because yes, they're in the mountain, but it's more like a backdrop, isn't it? It's not that you're thousands and thousands and thousands of meters up. Can you sort of explain the type of landscape? When people look at that, they may think, oh no, it's too far in the mountains for me. Can you explain the kind of landscape around you?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too, because with these mountains, looking at them, I feel like I'm almost back in Colorado with mountainous terrain and stuff. But we're not really in the mountains per se, because we're also pretty close to the sea. So sea levels, maybe 10, 15 miles away. So what we have here, as we kind of get away from the mountains just a little bit, it's primarily agricultural. A lot of olive groves, vineyards. You really start picking those up as you head towards the Adriatic. A few other crops growing here and there. And of course, we've got just really the stunning valley just off to the east of us. You're kind of looking at the other side of the valley up towards Jesopolenia. And it's just, it's so varied, just kind of depending on which direction you're looking. And it's just a completely different experience. You kind of do the full 360 on the compass.
But I mean, literally, we can walk to the bar. I suppose you could walk to the grocery store, but then you'd have to carry all your groceries back. And Italians are able to do that, but I would prefer just to drive the half a mile to the grocery store. And then there's restaurants just beyond that. But I mean, even when we're looking at Italian bureaucracy and going through paperwork and documentation and kind of just bogged down and bothered with things, then I'll say to Craig, like, oh, can you go take this outside? Because I know once he goes outside and just sees those mountains coming down the hill, it cures his personality crankiness instantly.
I mean, I think the thing with bureaucracy, I mean, you guys have done a lot. We're going to talk about that. You've done a hell of a lot, going through all the visa process, everything. You've seen every bit of Italian bureaucracy, as far as I'm, or not every part, but a huge part of it. But it is, again, is that just not knowing the system. Because I mean, at the end of the day, when you bought your property, I don't think, hopefully it wasn't, otherwise it reflects bad on us, but I don't think it was a huge sort of stress. And, how did you feel when, especially you, Craig, being an ex-attorney, obviously looking at things in certain ways, how did you feel the process? What was it like for you?
Actually, for me, it was fascinating just to watch the real estate process in another country. And really, there were so many similarities between the process in the U.S. and the process here. You just have different players, different roles. The notary, is part closing agent, is part abstract attorney, that kind of thing. So these different systems kind of evolved, I think, throughout the ages. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is the same in terms of buying and selling properties, at least compared to the U.S. So I was, I really enjoyed that process, and at the end of the day, it went smoothly. I spent years as a government lawyer. I dealt with bureaucracy. I think the Italians do have a little bit of a lead on us when it comes to it. But by the same token, some of it is just the language barrier, and that's where you reach out, you get help from those that can help you, and we found it's all manageable.
Yeah. No, it is a huge thing. At the end of the day, if you know, anybody moving to any country and a language you could just look at a simple letter that comes from the bank and think, oh my God, what is all this all about? And suddenly your head can go crazy, can't it? You know, so I understand that. Yeah. So obviously, once you found the house, you put an offer on the house, you wanted to buy that house. Then the big thing came because you did a deposit because you wanted to go for your visa, go for your elective residency visa. You were coming out here in pension. So, and that's when nerve-wracking things possibly, well, for me it did, because you paid a deposit. Luckily, the owner was I would say kind enough to say you don't have to give me a huge deposit, but it was still a deposit at the end of the day, and you need to do that before you can get your visa, as you guys know. How were you feeling then, and what did you do to get your visa? What kind of information did you give them?
About 400 pages worth. But we went a little overboard. We wanted to make sure that they would have everything, and there wasn't a chance of us waiting, because it was during COVID. You couldn't go into the office. We went through the Houston consulate, but we sent everything so they wouldn't have to communicate back that they needed a different month of a different bank statement.
We went through the process, and I tried to make it as easy as possible for whoever's reviewing it at the Houston embassy, which is the one we operated out of.
And sorry to interrupt, Craig. If you can also just say as well that this that you've gone through and what you're going to explain now quickly, this applies now to Brits coming over, and it applies to anybody outside of the European Union. So if anybody's looking to do this, just so people know that, and obviously for listeners in the UK. So go on, sorry, I'll stay quiet.
Right. So, I really try to line it out to simplify it as much as possible. It's like, okay, here's what the embassy requires. Great. Whether it's tax returns or it's, bank statements or whatever. And I put together an index. I cross-referenced it with tabs and all the documents and stuff, just so that, I could reduce the number of questions that might come up, when it came to having a complete package. And I went over and over, the requirements and everything to make sure we didn't leave a single thing out. And so I put the time and effort into it. And I know that with the Houston embassy, they move pretty quickly. I think, different embassies just operate at a different schedule. So I can't speak for the others. But we did download requirements from the different consulates, in San Francisco, was it Chicago or
Miami. Boston. And it's based on where you live. You don't get to pick which one you go through. If you're in the South, from everything I've read, it seems that Houston is not a super onerous one to go through, but we even kind of cross-referenced that maybe Houston didn't require it, but we threw it in anyway just to be safe. And and it was kind of funny. We had really planned on it. Oh, well, just the basics: passports, marriage licenses, recent bank statements. A proof of financial means is a real big one. I mean, different countries have their requirements. Some countries, it's all about what you have in your bank account. Italy, focuses more on what's your income stream. And for us, being an elective residents, passive income stream. You can't work. You can't work remotely. You can't be earning any. You can have a rental property, but you can't be collecting a paycheck.
So they're looking for that. I mean, basically, under this scheme, and this falls under the 7% scheme that you referenced. The country, is like Portugal. I think they had kind of a similar deal, and Greece may be trying to get on board. I don't know. The idea is being, bring in investments, bring in enthusiastic foreigners. Don't take
bring in shoppers
and money. Don't take our jobs, and that's fine. And so that's kind of our deal. So we, we're not going to work here. I have no intention of working here. I'm retired. So
perfect. So just to just to interrupt, because Jeanette's Annette is saying beautiful house you found, good information from you too. Nice of you to share so openly. That's that's you guys, isn't it? You love to do these things anyway. So Jeanette mentioned a driving license. We are going to come onto that a little bit later. So talking about, obviously we were then, you paid your deposit. you were hoping that was in the June you came out. I think we did the deposit maybe a month later, whatever it was, and you wanted to be out for Christmas basically. And that's when we were then thinking, because usually it took a few months, didn't it, for the residency visas? What happened?
Yeah. Everything we read, we thought we hoped it would only take 2 months since we sent everything. And surprise, surprise, it came back approved within 5 days. So when we got the mail, I mean, I was still working. I hadn't told my employer yet, because if we weren't approved, we weren't going to move. And Craig called, and he didn't usually call while I was at work. And then he said, well, you're ready to go to Italy? We got our visas. And that was a little bit of a shock. So I think I texted Dave like,
This is what you text me.
Excitement, but it was so long putting everything together. Wait, and then quick.
And it was super quick. And I must say that since then, a number of people have done their residency visas, and everybody's been the same. It seems to be. I don't know if it's true or not, but after I'm going to say the mess of Brexit, that's just my opinion, in the UK, and obviously no Brits could come out. There was a huge amount of Brits coming out to stay. That suddenly disappeared, because then they have to go through the same sort of, they can't sort of come over and maybe carry on working a little bit or getting in there, have to come on pensions like yourselves. But all of a sudden, it just seemed like the American embassy said, okay, we need to keep sending people over to Italy. Let's fast track. I don't know if it was COVID that did it, or if it was that, or a mixture of everything. But you guys, it was just no time. I think if I remember rightly, didn't it take your visa longer to come in the post than it did for the actual whole process?
It did mine, because the U.S. Postal Service temporarily lost mine or screwed up the address, so we had to chase it down. I do think the process was speeded up by virtue of the fact they weren't doing interviews at the time because of COVID. And I'm not sure they're still doing interviews right now.
No,
Maybe other embassies have taken the same approach. So that at that point, they just had paperwork to look at rather than having us, fly down or drive down to Houston and do an interview and all that. So can't speak for the other consulates, but that's how Houston handled it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be happening anymore. It doesn't seem to be. They don't seem to be getting people in. It just seems to be get the paperwork in and tick the box, and off it goes. So obviously you sent me that photograph, then it was that, okay, well, we're moving now, so let's get everything booked in. And you sent me this photograph, which I always love this photograph. So this was literally from, is this your house behind?
It was Craig's mom's house, because our house already sold. We had to get out of our house, and we were technically homeless for a few weeks, but we had a house in Italy, and so we moved in with her.
and at this stage, then it was right. Let's get booked in.
And that's everything.
Sorry,
that's everything we brought over on the. Yeah, the cats are in those two little carriers on the left, the black bag things, and that's everything we brought over on the plane, and then we shipped. Like cargo shipped. It ended up being 3 lift vans, but like a wooden crate full of stuff that took a few months, mostly because of COVID and the shortage and the problems at the docks. I think it traditionally goes a little quicker. And then we also use just like a local or send my bags, where you just send boxes, DHL or FedEx, and those arrived within like 5 days. So that was helpful to have a little bit of stuff.
So then it was all go to get you out here and actually sign for the house, which we did then at the notary's office in Chieti, which is the same notary that we still use now. And then I think the next photograph was the celebration afterwards.
Yeah.
That's it. Just at a restaurant down the street with Prosecco, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember. I don't know why I didn't join you. That there must have been some reason. It must be the Yorkshire. You must have asked me. I probably thought that I had to pay, so I probably just disappeared somewhere else. So obviously you came out, did the signing straight away, and it was literally it was, did you move in? Did the guy let you in before the day before you signed? Or I can't remember now.
On the day before the closing. Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So we got you in there.
Yeah,
and,
we stayed the night before the closing.
Yeah. And then obviously reality kicked in of owning a house with absolutely nothing in it. How were you feeling? Did everything just seem surreal at this point? Because obviously you'd done a massive change. And how did you feel?
Well, yeah, it did seem a little surreal. I mean, I really felt that, flying, across the ocean, landing in a new place, having very limited furniture and means and whatnot. I told Lexi, just pretend you're on a camping trip right now. We'll start going to IKEA and we'll start ordering things. And in fact, before we came over, we looked at, what it would take to populate a shipping container with furniture and everything. And we just moved here at the wrong time when shipping containers were just, prohibitively expensive. So we thought, you know what, Italian design, Italian furnishings and everything really appealed to me. So let's not spend all that money on a shipping container and haul this stuff over and simply buy new things. So, but, we sort of took our time on things. We did have a sleeper sofa that was used, so we were able to sleep the first week here. And then we went to IKEA, bought the bed. And so we slowly started adding things, over the next few months. And it worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kristen's I don't know if you can remember how expensive it was to ship the larger items. Can you remember roughly?
Yes,
just to give a rough idea?
I know it was at least double, if not triple, of what it typically is. So I have not looked at it since then. But to get a 40-foot container, which is huge, was going to be around $30,000. That was absurd to us. And then you could get a 20-foot container. But that was around $18,000 to $20,000, and that also, we're moving to the land of leather and design, and our furniture in Oklahoma wasn't going to fit in this house anyways. So we ended up doing. They called them a lift van, but it was like a
7 by 7 by 4 foot crate. We just did 3 of those. But to put it all in context, when we first started this adventure, we were probably looking anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 to do a 20-foot shipping container. But we literally moved at the wrong time. If you recall the news reports, there were no shipping containers. The prices went through the roof, and it was like that for 3 or 4 months. So
hopefully they have gone back down and check around. And it took. We shipped all of that in October or November. And I think we got it in May. And I don't think typically it takes that long. I think it's usually 2 to 3 months.
By then, I kind of took the approach that, well, first of all, what did we ship? And then as I opened the crates up, then I looked at it and thought, why did we ship this?
the two emotions of shipping goods from one place to another.
Where are we going to put all this stuff?
and we did exactly the same. So that I remember putting so much stuff in the back of the van in the UK and thinking, obviously, it's much easier from the UK. But then when you bring it all here, and you just think, this is stuff that I could have really done with getting rid of in the UK rather than driving 1,200 miles with it and then putting it in the bin at this side. But that's usually how it goes. So Ali asked, have the cats settled in?
Yes, they love it, especially that glass room that has floor to ceiling 3 walls. They just sit here, and they're indoor cats. They have never wanted to go outside. We do have some outdoor neighbor cats that they kind of look at each other through the glass. But after they got over the trauma of being on the plane, by the next day they were fine, and they couldn't be happier.
And was it a trauma? Was it hard bringing them over?
It was, and as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't the June trip; it was the December trip. It was so traumatizing for me. Forget the cats; that they all kind of blurred together. Part of the problem was, at least coming from the U.S. Into Italy, you had to get a health certificate signed by an authorized vet who would run it upstream to a certain person within the USDA. And then they'd send it back, and it would only be good for 10 days, I think, from your initial visit. So it was very much a timing issue between the time you went to the vet, hopefully the bureaucrat upstream would get it sent back, and then you have to hop on a plane or it's expired. So we had that. And the second problem is one of the cats was great. When he's scared, he just freezes. He was the perfect travel companion. The other just kind of turned mean. I had to medicate her every 6 hours, and I got old quickly. But we made it, and they forgot the trauma. I really haven't, but
I remember the
but
the
if you don't find, you can find.
Yeah. I remember the funny story that you told me, Craig, if you want to say it, when you were coming out of the airport with the cats.
Oh, yeah, when we came in June and it was COVID time and everything, we had so many checks and tests we had to go through, and it was a real bear just getting through the airport in Rome. So anyway, so we fly out, it's December, of course, still exhausted. My cat was being a complete pain, but they were pretty quiet. We walked through the airport, nobody's checking, a quick stamp on the passports, the carries, you really couldn't even tell there were animals in it, which kind of worked out well. So anyway, it's like, wow, free and clear, this is weird. And I started celebrating a little too soon. Lexi was in front of me with suitcases and everything. As it turns out, the documents relating to the cats, she goes through the sliding glass doors out into the parking lot. The door is closed. She can't get back in. My cat then arises from her stupor and lets out the loudest meow I can imagine.
It was ridiculous.
So somebody comes running towards me. Apparently he was animal control for immigration. He kind of does the big like this. So we go back, and then I'm trying to explain I don't have the documents because my wife is trying to get back in. And but at the end of the day, he spoke a little English, and we chatted. And his first question was, "Well, why are you bringing cats to this country? We're overloaded with wild cats." Second one was, what kind of cat is this? This is interesting. So it worked out okay, but it was just one cat's final swipe at me, I think.
Yeah. You're not getting away with the trip I've just had. I think the cat was thinking. So moving on. Obviously, when you came out, then we'd done the signing, we'd done everything else, and then as Lexi likes to remind me, as you did today as well, to say that I'm the one that's the how did you describe me? And then you said Silvana, my wife, is the one that does all the work. I can't remember how you but anyway. So you moved on to the part where that my wife then looks after, and that's actually getting your documents in it, because you got your visa, but it's not that you can just come over with your visa and say that's it, I can live here. What was this part like? What did you have to do to get residency?
Yeah, that was for our permesso di soggiorno, and Silvana was great. Within the first week, met us, and we had to go register at our local comune office, kind of like city hall for your local village or township, and then go to the post office and get this little envelope, and then have a government official fill out all the paperwork and then mail it in. And then go to the police station. We ended up going to Chieti, which I think was really productive. It's a bit of chaos that day with the list of people and everyone kind of elbowing and jockeying for the time slot. But
I do think I did hear somebody say that you and Silvana handled that quite well, I think.
We got a little bit feisty. She had the language, but I think I had the growl. So you do that, but then you have to come back and then do fingerprints, and then we actually, and there's frankly, because of our lack of understanding of the Italian language and bureaucracy, there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for Silvana holding our hand through that whole process. And so that was actually for 1 year. And then just a couple months ago, we did it again, and we're approved to stay for 1 year. And then hopefully going forward, we can get 2 years approved.
Yeah, great stuff. So obviously, once you got your residency, that then meant that you could get to the next stage, which was to buy a car.
Yes, because you have to rent a car until you have your residency. So that's another reason to go the quicker route, because renting anywhere is not nearly as effective or cheap as buying one. So
yeah. So obviously, I mean, thinking about some of the cars, I've only been to the States a couple of times, but some of the cars over there are quite big things. Craig, you explain to people why you went for up to a 1 liter. Is it 1 liter car? Explain to people.
It's 48 kilowatts per ton. I can tell you exactly what it is, which coming from the United States and the cars I drove in the past is horribly underpowered. So I could go through the usual things. It's, I'm conservation minded. You want to park in the larger cities. You don't want a big car. Hey, the roads are narrow here, but at the end of the day, when you have to get your Italian driver's license, like I had to for that first year, you have to drive an underpowered car, and they have a specific limit on it. And this particular car, I liked it, and it happened to meet the criteria.
Yeah, it's not as flashy as a Ferrari or Maserati, but
who cares? But the thing is, though, living here, I'm sure you'll agree with me now, your life is flashy. It's not about driving around in a flashy car. Just your lifestyle is worth so much more.
And to be fair, it seems like so much identity is wrapped up in cars back in the U.S. It's kind of refreshing to come to a country where nobody out here really seems to care what you drive.
Yeah, definitely. So hats off to you as well, Craig. I'm going to give you a huge pat on the back, considering you didn't know any Italian whatsoever. You actually went and passed your drive. You passed your theory test and you passed your driving test. So I know I saw you just before your main test, even though you've been driving a long time. And how was the whole thing? How was that, learning all that again?
It was interesting. We learned pretty early on that we had basically. There we go. I look real pleased with myself, and should.
You don't look quite happy with that. I don't think anybody else ever looked as happy as that for getting a driving license for a second.
I had to work for that. I really did. We learned pretty early on that we were going to have 1 year from the time of really the date of our permesso di soggiorno, our residency card, that we were going to have to get Italian license, or at least one of us was going to have to. And it depends where you come from. If you're in the European Union, you can just swap it out. I think everyone from the UK were, newly arrived UK citizens were a little bit concerned because the treaty wasn't in place. I understand now there is.
I think it's just about there. Yeah.
But if you're coming from the United States, you're coming from Australia, Bahrain, I think Canada. I mean, actually, probably most countries, they don't have a treaty. You have to get an Italian driver's license within a year. And so I know others that did it that were somewhat limited with the language. And I had Lexi order a book on Amazon that just kind of spelled out. It did a translation of the Italian driving code just so I could get enough knowledge to where I could start taking online tests in Italian. And I found that a couple of things. I mean, number one, I was actually kind of learning Italian. My ability to read it is getting better and better. My ability to converse in it, it's still pretty bad, but it's not getting worse. It is getting better. But I just took the tests over and over, and after taking enough of them, I was ready to sign up for the driving school, where they just handled all the permits and all the documentation and everything, and then they hauled you down to the driving test itself, which was in Chieti, and I passed it. And at that point, then I just had.
Sorry to interrupt, but I know we spoke just before you went for the practicals. I mean, you did fantastic. We're doing the theory test in Italian, great stuff, which is multiple choices. I'm not saying that made it easier, because it was still very difficult. You just concentrated on learning about that, didn't you? You spent a lot of months doing that. What was the practical side of that? I mean, to sit next to somebody, you've been driving all these years and past years ago. What did they get you to do a lot of things, or was it easier than what you thought?
Well, first of all, they tell you to back up by holding both hands on the wheel and turning around. It's just like, I'm 60. I have to throw my hand over the seat and wrench around. There's little things like that. It's like, don't steer with your knees while you're, it's
while you're on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. What was funny about it, and everybody I'd talked to said, oh, the practical part, you're going to pass it. Not a problem. And The gentleman, they called him the professor at the driving school that was working with me, he spoke no English whatsoever. And of course, my ability to converse in Italian was almost non-existent. Fortunately, there was one individual at the driving school that could speak a little English, so I was able to get secondhand, okay, what are y'all saying about me here? But I didn't realize until, about 3/4 of the way through, what he did is he just literally took me through the parts of the road we were going to be on, because the exam takes place with the driving school vehicle at the driving school. So he was walking me through, or driving me through, literally every maneuver I was going to have to execute. Not that I can't do it, because I've been driving for over 40 years, but simply that I might not understand what they're asking me to do. Yes. As it turns out, it was great. The examiner was just fine. I finally kind of got the point, and say, Zora destra, and then the C, and so I'd turn and everything. So it really wasn't a big deal, but it kind of seemed like it, because I thought, oh my God, I went through all this, and I passed the written test, and then I'm going to face plant at the end.
I think it's superb. I think it's absolutely superb. So Lexi next.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm just enjoying being chauffeured around, and I need to study and take the test, but
you do realize, Lexi, there's one thing that we've got to say though. It's got to be a little bit of a competition. You've got to try and do it quicker than Craig, surely.
I'm only competitive on certain things.
Oh, yeah. On this, you're not competitive, no?
No, doesn't bother me. No.
That's a shame. Well, we'll discuss. The next time we see each other, we'll discuss it. So now that was brilliant.
Thrilled if she would have done it first, and then I can just sit back and just enjoy the scene. Yeah, I enjoy being chauffeured around. It's so rare, but when I
Superb. So moving on to the lighter part, we've got 5 minutes to go. Obviously, just because nobody has ever seen, here's my wife on the bottom left. And this, I could not believe this meal. And there's Tony. Look, I didn't realize Tony was on the picture. I would have blocked him out. Tony's there on the top right with his tie on. I'm looking a little bit red-faced next to Craig. That's obviously the wine had kicked in at that point. The thing with this meal, and the reason why I chose this photograph is because we have been living here and been coming here for years and years and years and years and years. When anybody says to us, what do you miss from the UK? The only thing we've ever said is a Thai restaurant, because we've never been able to find one. You guys were here 2 minutes and found one 45 minutes away from where we live.
I think it was a month and a half, in all fairness, but yes.
But compared to sort of the 18 years we've been coming, you've done pretty well.
Yeah. And it was delicious and authentic and wonderful. So that was Craig's 60th birthday last spring, but we've been back plenty of times, and just really enjoying finding different restaurants of different types of cuisine, cooking classes, wineries, the whole. I don't remember what the other pictures are, but.
So, before I show just a few of the fun pictures before we go, Joy has just said, could you recommend that book, Craig, that you actually use to get through your, maybe if you could send it to me afterwards.
Hang on one sec.
Yeah, he got it on Amazon.it, so that's the Italian version of Amazon, the US version, but it's in one page is in English and one page is in Italian. So the book's, he's bringing it over.
This is good. And if the author is watching this, then, maybe we should be on some sort of.
I think it was less than $20.
Yeah. So this is it.
Okay. Perfect. I tell you what will be really helpful as well. Obviously, people can pause that, but if you could send me a message with that on, and I will add it to the bottom of this stream afterwards as well. Martin is saying, Lexi, how is the manual transmission?
Not well. Thank you, Martin, for bringing that up.
And Martin Martin's in the same boat as you. He's just put his elective visa residency. Yeah. He's coming out and he's signing, so hopefully he's going to be joining us as well. So you don't like manual transmissions then, no?
No, I grew up driving automatic, so I'm familiar with that. Craig could drive both. We bought a manual car, which he enjoys kind of while we're going up the hills, and he did a few driving lessons with me, and after us having heated conversations, I said, I will do one or the other. Do you want me to learn how to drive or learn how to speak the language? And so we both decided it's more important that I speak the language for now.
That's good. Good that you both decided that.
Yeah.
We'll weigh in. As I understand it, there are some driving schools that have that. And talking to the gentleman that speaks a little English at the school I went to, he said they're looking at buying an automatic because that's the wave of the future. The key is finding a school that has it, so then they can qualify you in that. And of course, if you're qualified in an automatic, you're not qualified to drive a standard. But then again, if you can't drive a standard, who cares?
Okay, so just another photograph, and I'm going to show a few others, and then we will sign off. But this photograph, if I remember rightly, we've definitely had a few drinks here, Craig. I definitely got a silly grin on, and a little bit of excessive August Italian pasta weight. This, if I remember rightly, it's either this one or a very similar event that we shared together. That poor Lexi wasn't very well at all. Craig thought it would be really nice just to come to the house and say, "Look, I know you invited us, but I think you even had a COVID test, didn't you, at our house?" Just so, and we said, "Well, why not stay for a drink if Lexi's asleep? Why not?" How many hours later was it when you actually?
8, 9, 10 hours or something. I finally checked in.
I think it was the bit when you said Lexi who. I think that was the time to say, Craig, you need to go home. So, but joking aside, obviously we have a great relationship with you guys, as we do with lots of people out here, and it's brilliant. How has life been? Just to sum it up in a few minutes, I'm going to show a couple of pictures. How has life been completely changed? You've moved out here. You've been here just over a year. How are things really?
They are really amazing. We have met so many friends. This is a picture at a cooking class at a local farm to table type restaurant in a home, and so we're learning how to make pierogies. So some of it's Italian, but some of it's other cultures. That was a flower festival in Rocca Scalagna, where all over the streets there's seeds and flowers and wood chips and all different kinds of materials that make these amazing murals. So there's festivals a couple times a week, and then certainly the month of August. This is 45 minutes away, Mama Rosa, and then Passo Lanciano is the other ski resort. We actually went on Valentine's Day skiing, and then this was like a couple weeks before that. So, I mean, we've just stopped in wineries, and they have the wine in like almost looks like a gasoline pump, and it's the equivalent of like $1.30 a liter. It blows my mind. And then we just used it as a launching pad. This year we've already gone to, well, not this year. I'm sorry, last calendar year. We went to Germany. We went to the Czech Republic. We went to Austria. We went to Hungary, and then all over Italy, just to have a home base here.
Peter saying Craig didn't pour that glass, it's way too small. Okay, so the last picture I want to finish off on is this one, because Craig, if there's somebody's ideal, it has to be this picture. Let's just have a quick look at this. What is going off here?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a friend who is a masseuse, and she actually travels out to your house to do massages. And it's really funny. The first time she came out, Lexi did 2 hours, and I thought, well, I've been beaten to a pulp by masseuses in New York City, so maybe I can only handle 1 hour. And at the end of the hour, I thought, why did I do 2? So we try to do this at least once a month. Do we ever come out?
She comes out once a month, and we each get a 2-hour massage. The prices are really reasonable compared to what we pay in the U.S. And then she comes to our house, and that's the view. That's why the cats love living here, because they feel like they're outside.
And that's the thing as well. I mean, just looking at that view is just incredible. Obviously, to think that is your home. This is the whole thing of moving. Some of the stress you've had doing your driving license and everything else, and in the end, that's what you're doing. You know,
totally worth it.
Your beautiful home. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I think we've covered just about everything in an hour and 5 minutes. Absolute pleasure to see you on here again, and I'm sure everybody else has really appreciated it. Thank you so much, and no doubt we will see you very soon. I hope anyway. Okay, guys.
Ciao.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Okay, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that one. Fantastic couple, Lexi and Craig. They're absolutely certainly living the life here, and that's what it's all about. They've gone through the whole thing, and it's wonderful to be with people like them, because that's part of our job. Is that between myself and my wife, I hate calling people clients and things like that, because people are not clients. You know, we have a job to do, and we do it. We believe we do it well, but it's all about seeing the change in people and seeing people enjoy a new life, and that gives us so much pleasure, as it did when we changed our life as well. So thank you guys so much for all your support as well. Hopefully I'm going to see a number of you out here soon looking at properties. Soon I'm going to be off down into Puglia as well. I'm meeting a couple of agents down there who are looking to work with us, so look out for details on that really soon. As everybody knows, we are based in Abruzzo, so I do have a huge passion for that, but we can help anybody anywhere in Italy if you decide to buy a property out here. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Thursday, where we're talking about the region of Abruzzo. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.